physicist Roger Penrose, Oxford University, decided to put, what's the chance that all these different things, these different forces, and he suggested, and some other factors in there, what's the chance they could just happen by themselves? And he calculated it out. Improbabilities, you have to have improbabilities for one thing and another. As you know, when you're considering two improbabilities, you have to multiply them, and so on. I'm not going to take time to go into details of that, but these numbers grow very rapidly. And so he did that, calculated them. This factor has to be precise by this much. This factor has to be precise by this much. This, and so on. Put them all together. What's the chance that, and he uses the term, Creator had to aim in order to provide a universe compatible with the second law of thermodynamics, which is what they use when they do this, and that we now observe. The Creator's aim must have been precise to an accuracy of 1 part out of 10 raised to the 123rd power of 10. To put it in a slightly different thing, terminology, it'd be 1 followed by 10 raised to the 123rd power. 10 to the first power is 10. 2 is 20, 100, and the 3 is 1,000, and 4 is 10,000, 6 is a million, and so on, type of thing. And so, 1 chance out of 10 raised to 10 to the 123rd power. So you get a tremendous figure. So, people need to know this type of thing. And that suggests as well, maybe time, given enough time, this would happen. We'll get into that in just a minute. Okay. Let me tell you a story about Ignaz Semmelweis. And then I've heard it, but it illustrates a little bit to you the attitude of science and what happens in science sometimes. This happened in Vienna, Austria, just at the time when evolution was coming forth. Darwin's Origin of Species was being published, and so on. And he was a physician in the hospital in Vienna, and he was in charge of a certain ward, and this was a maternity ward, and a lot of the mothers were dying. In that ward, 2,000 mothers died in 6 years. Terrible thing. Well, he didn't know what was involved, but he suggested, hey, since physicians were attending both the dead, at least autopsies on the dead and so on, and taking care of the mothers and so on, maybe they're transferring some kind of poison. Germs was not a concept at that time. And so he suggested, hey, they need to wash their hands in chlorine. He picked very lucky to pick a right chemical for this and so on. And he was able to reduce the deaths in that ward from 12 to 1%. A tremendous success. Would the other physicians accept his suggestion? No. Why? Well, their reputation's involved in all these deaths. It is a very serious situation, you understand. So many people are dying, type of thing, and so on. And they just classified him as, well, he got funny ideas. And in some hospitals we have those figures where the physicians don't transfer, type of thing, and so on. And they essentially destroyed the concept. He lost his mind trying to help others and say this and so on. But 40 years later, it was finally accepted that, hey, what's going on here? A microbe called, it's a strep type of microbe, streptococcus type of microbe that you may be familiar with, causes tremendous death of all these mothers in this hospital, and the cause was remedied, but the physicians would not accept the solution. Too much peer pressure, too much not wanting to recognize maybe they've been wrong, type of thing, and so on. So it took a while before they finally accepted this. But this tells you a little bit about what is so important in this whole issue. Why is it that, there's so much data that points to a design? Why is the scientific community rejected? There are strong sociological factors involved in the behavior of the scientific community. Well, since then we found these germs, and we found they are extremely complex. I very much doubt that evolution would have ever gotten off the ground if the people had known what the way these things are. I mean, this thing is, right here. This is the composition of one little germ. You've heard of Escherichia coli, probably. It occasionally pops up in the news every once in a while. 500 of them end to end for 1 millimeter. Extremely small little microbe. Just one. Well, what's its composition? Well, we have here the number of kinds of molecules and the number of molecules. Proteins in that one little germ. 2,400,000 protein molecules. 4,288 different kinds of protein molecules. Ribosomes, very interesting structure made of RNA and proteins and so on. 20,000 of them probably in Escherichia coli, only one kind. DNA, only 2 kinds. This is your genetic code thing, type thing. So, RNA, 255,480. Polysaccharides, other carbohydrates. 1,400,000 lipids, 22 million. Other fats and so on. Other things, 280 million different kinds. I should say 280 million, 800 different kinds and so on. But you get the idea. These things are extremely complex. They're very simple things. These are germs that Semmelweis didn't know existed at that time. But as we looked at these and so on, how could this simple form of life, and E. coli is not the simplest form of life. Mycoplasma is probably what's considered, at least in the scientific literature, as the simplest. It's about 1/10 the size of Escherichia coli, and it has about 482 different kind of proteins it produces and so on. How could this, get started all by itself is the issue that this raises in connection with the origin of life. And we can get into the genetic code, and I'm not going to go through the details of this. Some of you know this. It takes 3 different bases on the DNA to code for one amino acid, and without that code, you're not going to have the production of any proteins. How did the code get started? And the code's useless. You can put all the codes you want on DNA, unless you have things that can read that code on the DNA. You're not going to get the right kind of proteins. So it's like a language. Both the speaker and the listener must understand the same code or same words you have, and that's what's involved in this thing. And this is the way we make a protein, ribosome I mentioned to you before, and so on. And amino acids are put together with special molecules, which transfer RNA, which reads the code here and puts the amino acid in the right order, and the amino acids come out here, and your protein comes out in the end this way.